Hi, has it happened to you that suddenly you are in a course, in a program, in a training program, and the instructor seems to be talking and talking and talking, and he seems to have forgotten any other teaching technique that he can use? Well, today we're going to talk about that. My name is Max Quiroz from Max and Ruth Training, and I welcome you to this video. And today we're going to talk about what different didactic techniques and what you need to know about those didactic techniques. And let me be clear, most of the time in the training programs that we attend, the instructor starts talking. There might be some kind of activities, but those are activities, those are not training or teaching techniques or didactic techniques. And today I want to make some distinctions that are important. The first kind of teaching techniques that I want to talk about are instructional techniques. Instructional techniques are the ones in which the teacher or instructor is in charge of the teaching and the learning process. And the first one of those teaching techniques, instructional techniques, is the Socratic questioning technique. And this is as old as human civilization. And it's called Socratic after Socrates, the Greek philosopher that in Athens just gathered in the agora or the public plaza of Athens, and he gathered with his students and he started posing questions to them, asking them questions, and the students started answering those questions. And what happens when the student answers the question made by the teacher? He starts building his or her own knowledge, and that's the value of the Socratic questioning technique, where the participant starts answering those questions, and when he answers that, everybody starts building their knowledge. And since this is a technique that we use in a group, everybody's listening and everybody is learning from each other. So that's the first instructional technique. The second instructional technique is that demonstrative technique, where the trainer or instructor demonstrates how to do something. And the key word here is how to do something. And yes, it's been used in computer science courses, it's used in cooking courses, it's used in scuba diving courses. Wherever participants must learn a set of skills and they must learn how to do something. Now, there's certain steps that must be carried out in this technique. First step is the instructor demonstrates how to do something, how to create a file in Word or in Excel. Second step, the participant follows the steps outlined by the instructor or trainer, and he does that. If he makes a mistake, he receives feedback from the instructor, and afterwards, all the participants must demonstrate that they have acquired the skill. And that's why it's very important. This technique is very useful when we are working with objectives, learning objectives from the psychomotor domain, where the students must demonstrate that they possess a certain set of skills or know how to do something. So that's instructional technique number 2, demonstrative technique. The next most widely used technique is the lecture and presentation technique. In this technique, the instructor starts talking and presenting to the group, and when he does this, he is telling them something, telling a story or saying something and presenting facts, maybe using slides or any kind of visual aids that he deems adequate, and the students are learning from him. The problem here is that we exaggerate in the use of this lecture and presentation technique, and by default we think that this is the best teaching technique, and it's not so, especially when we're working with adults. Adults learn by doing. Adults learn socially, and that's where the value of the group techniques rises. Group techniques, as the name implies, here the group is in charge of the learning process. The instructor training just facilitates the process. He's not responsible for carrying out the activities. The students or participants are responsible for their learning process, and the teacher or instructor works as a catalyst, as in chemistry, because they participate, they accelerate the reaction, but they do not participate actively in the reaction. So that's why the trainer or instructor becomes a facilitator of the learning process. And the first group technique that we can learn about and that we can use is brainstorming. And I know brainstorming has a very specific set of rules. However, brainstorming can be used with those rules or in a much more flexible and informal way, so that participants can get to results in a quick way. And the value of this when working with adults is that everybody shares their experience. And for adults, that's very important. If you haven't seen the video about andragogy that we posted last week, please do so that you can learn more about how adults need socializing to learn better. Another great technique that we can use in group settings, and another group technique that is available to us in our repertoire of teaching techniques, is role-playing. And role-playing is valuable because most of the times the participants fully immerse in the role they're playing, and that makes them show or see some emotions, some behaviors that are not easily seen in other settings. And that's the value of role-playing as a teaching technique, as a group technique, because participants can investigate and can learn about different emotions and values. And this is why it's important to use when we're working with the affective domain, when we're working with values, attitudes, and emotions with our participants. One of the techniques that is most valuable is commented readings. And when we assign a reading to a group of students, all of them will read the text or the assigned materials, and they will comment amongst them, and then they will present their conclusions to the group, to the whole group. This is very valuable because adults learn from each other and they share their own experiences. And when they share their experiences and they learn from others, that's the real way in which adults learn. So please try to use any of these group techniques. Similar to commented readings is the case studies technique. The case studies technique, you assign a case study and you can assign a different case to each of the groups that you form, or you can assign the same case to the whole group and have them work in small groups. And at the end of the process, they must present their conclusions and their results to the whole group. We've seen this technique used with finance cases, with political science cases, with different kinds and different topics and subjects. And it's very valuable because students immerse fully in the case and they try to work out a solution. Maybe as old as the Socratic questioning method is the debate technique. In the debate, there are a set of rules if you want to do it formally, there are a specific set of rules that you must follow, as the opening statement, the counter statement, the rebuttal, and so on. There's several different acts that each team must carry out, but you can also use it in a more flexible and informal way when you assign a position to two different groups and ask them to debate, do some research, work amongst them, and then present, so that we can get to have a winning position because of the arguments that each of one of them present. So it's important that we consider the debate as a group technique. And similar to that is the discussion panel. The thing here is that in a discussion panel, we can assign, or each individual works from their own standpoint, works from their own point of view, and not necessarily they'll be working as team. But what happens is they have to defend their point of view in a group setting against the opinions and the points of view of other persons, and it helps them develop communication skills. It helps them to develop sound arguments for them to present to the group. And at the end, we must reach a group conclusion. And that's the value of the discussion panel. And finally, the group technique par excellence is the small group discussion. The small group discussion, it's an informal discussion in which you assign a task to a small group and allow them to find a way in which they're going to carry out the task. And here you can observe communication strategies, leadership, teamwork, and a lot other things besides the grasp or the knowledge of the content matter that you want them to do. So it's a very useful group technique, and it's important because, as we learned previously, adults learn by socializing, adults learn by doing, and adults learn by working in small groups. So it's very, very important to program or to introduce small group discussions. So those are the teaching techniques that you must use, the instructional techniques and the group techniques that you can use. We really hope that this video is helpful for you. Hope to see you in the next one. Have a great day.